Iran not only refused to negotiate with the United States of America, but also quickly began restoring the nuclear facilities that the Americans had struck the day before. Satellite images showed that heavy machinery appeared at the Fordo facility, which began clearing the entrances to the site. At the same time, Iran officially terminated its cooperation with International Atomic Energy Agency inspectors and even dismantled the cameras that had been installed at nuclear facilities for monitoring. And today, International Atomic Energy Agency Director General Rafael Grossi admitted that it would take Iran only a few months to restore its nuclear program. And no one still knows where all the enriched uranium has gone. And that's not all the admissions from the International Atomic Energy Agency. In this episode, we'll discuss with you Grossi's statement, which shocked many people today. We'll discuss the consequences of the American strikes on nuclear facilities in Iran and talk about how quickly Iran can restore its nuclear program. My name is Alexei Pechi. Today is June 29th on the calendar. Let's go through everything step by step. But before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this channel. Give it a like, write any comment you want, and be sure to subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pechi News. The link to it is in the description of this video. There we publish breaking news as soon as it comes in. So I'll start with the news about how Iran is rushing to restore its nuclear facilities. Recent satellite images of Iran's Fordo nuclear facility show engineering equipment, excavators and bulldozers. And now the engineering equipment is probably trying to clear the entrances to the underground facility to assess the extent of the damage to the complex from the inside. Moreover, now it's possible to imagine the size of the craters left by the American missile strikes. Well, as I see it, the crater is about the size of an excavator. At the same time, Iran will no longer allow International Atomic Energy Agency Director General Rafael Grossi to inspect its nuclear facilities and will not permit the installation of surveillance cameras at these sites. This was officially announced today by the Vice Speaker of Iran and the Iranian Parliament, Hamid Reza Haji Babai. And according to Babai, Tehran made this decision after confidential data about Iranian facilities was allegedly found in documents related to Israel. Next, I will quote Babai. The 12-day war is a continuation of 47 years of hostility that the United States has waged against the Iranian people. It's not about missiles or the nuclear program, it's about the Iranian people themselves. Babai also added that it was the Iranian people who made the final decision. Quote, "The more the enemy pressures us, the stronger our response will be." Let me briefly remind you that on June 27, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi announced that the country is officially ending its cooperation with the International Atomic Energy Agency. On June 22, the United States carried out airstrikes on 3 nuclear facilities in Iran, specifically targeting the Fordo plant, sites in Natanz and in Isfahan, where uranium enrichment takes place. President Donald Trump has already stated several times about the complete destruction of these targets, and he also announced an agreement between Iran and Israel on a ceasefire. Well, and already on June 24, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian stated that his country had achieved a historic victory after the end of the 12-day war with Israel. At the same time, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also described the end of the war as a historic victory for his people. Well, and now the main question remains. Can Iran restore its nuclear program quickly enough after the United States strikes? And according to the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, it can. Rafael Grossi gave a major interview in which he admitted that it would take Iran months to restore its nuclear program. And next, I'll give you some important quotes from Grossi, as they say, unedited. So, the first quote from Grossi is about the damage. The damage from the strike can be described in different ways. But it's clear that what happened, particularly in Fordo, Natanz and Isfahan, where Iran had and still has to some extent capabilities in terms of processing, conversion and enrichment of uranium, was largely destroyed, but some of it still remains. At some point, the International Atomic Energy Agency will have to return there. Although our job is not to assess the damage, but to restore knowledge about the activities taking place there and to gain access to the material they will produce if they continue this activity. But that already depends on the negotiations, which may or may not resume. So what we see here, I think, is a snapshot of a program that has been very seriously damaged. And now we need to focus on the next steps. Next is another quote from Rafael Grossi about how he reacts to the decision of the Iranian parliament to stop cooperating with the International Atomic Energy Agency. I wouldn't say that. I look at what they approved with interest and some concern, but of course it's their law, it's their parliament. But, are there legal consequences here? An international treaty, of course, takes precedence. You can't refer to domestic law to avoid complying with an international treaty. But Iran isn't saying that now. I think that's constructive. That's why I think we need to go into the details, because the work will have to continue. Otherwise, no one will have any idea what's happening in Iran. Iran will continue its nuclear program, the outlines of which are yet to be seen, and I'm sure it will be part of these negotiations, which I hope will resume soon. Next, there's another quote from Grossi about how Iran, it turns out, was expanding a new nuclear facility in Isfahan before Israel's attack. Before the war began, Iran informed us that they had a new enrichment facility in Isfahan, and we were planning to go there on June 13th to inspect the facility. Later, it was seriously damaged. Of course, they can protect their facilities, but they know that in the agreements we have, there is a provision, and this applies not only to Iran, but to any other country as well. If a country at some point feels that some of the things we inspect need to be protected or something like that, they have to tell us, and we have to go and check. Also, Grossi commented on rumors that Iran might have removed enriched uranium from nuclear facilities before the United States attack. And here is his answer. Quote, "We assume that when they announced they were going to take protective measures, that could have included the removal of enriched uranium. But I admit, we don't know where this material might be or whether any of it could have been under attack during those 12 days. So some could have been destroyed during the attack, but some stockpiles could have been moved. So at some point there should be clarification. And if we don't get that clarification, it will continue to hang over us as a potential problem. That's why I say it's so important, first of all, for Iran to allow our inspectors to continue their indispensable work as soon as possible. Iran had a very extensive, ambitious program, and part of it may still be there. And if not, there's also the self-evident truth that they definitely still have the knowledge, and they also still have the industrial capabilities. Iran is a very complex country in terms of nuclear technology. You can't undo the knowledge you have or the capabilities you possess. So I think we all need to understand that you can't solve this definitively by military means alone. You need to have an agreement. Let me remind you, protective measures were announced, which could have included moving equipment and materials. We don't know. We've seen the same images as the rest of the world of those trucks. And we don't want to jump to conclusions about this. But here's what comes next. Grossi stated that Iran is still close to developing nuclear weapons. Quote, "First of all, they did not have nuclear weapons. That needs to be said. What concerned us were other things that were unclear. For example, we found traces of uranium in some places in Iran that were not regular declared nuclear facilities. And for years we asked why we found these traces of enriched uranium in these places, and we just weren't getting any credible answers. If there was material there, then where is that material now? So there could have been even more of it. We don't know. They could have, for several months, I would say, several cascades of centrifuges spinning and producing enriched uranium. But, as I said, honestly, you can't claim that everything is gone and there's nothing there. So, if they want to, they can start doing it again." These are the statements from the International Atomic Energy Agency Director General, despite Donald Trump's claim that Iran's entire nuclear program has been completely destroyed. So, as I see it, this is just the beginning. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. If you want to support the work of this channel, you can do so with any donation using the links and details in the description of this video. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves, everyone. Goodbye.